Here we go.
Here we go. Hi, welcome to ReneMarie Stroke of Luck. We always have incredible shows, and of course we have to thank Judy Marlowe, my co-host, for always putting together a wonderful show. Don't we look refreshed? Judy and I actually, after the telethon, went on a vacation each separately. One day we'll do it together. but it was very, 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 very necessary. We just, we were, it's crazy. It's intense. So we're happy to be back. It's going to be a wonderful summer shows. We have a really important show today. Her name is Cyndy Feasel. She wrote a Feasel. I'm sorry. Cyndy Feasel. She wrote a book. What's the name of her book, Judy?
It is After the Cheering Stops.
After the Cheering Stops, and it has to do with the concussion, the CTE that football players suffer, and it really ties into our one of our purposes on our foundation is aphasia awareness, and June is aphasia awareness month. Of course, everybody that follows me knows that this is one of my passions, to bring awareness to aphasia. It's a result of a brain injury or stroke, and of course I suffered 30 years ago a stroke, but it's almost like the silent part of the issue, of the result. It's the not being able to communicate and not being able to think, because I couldn't process or think. And it really is very, it's silent. That's what keeps coming to me, because you don't see the physical impairment that you have, or a person has that suffers a stroke, because it's in the brain. So, and it's really, I believe it's a God thing that Judy had coordinated with Cyndy to be a guest on our show today to talk about that, but to talk about her struggles and really the personal situation that, most people look at a family and look at football players and look at athletes and look at the lifestyle they're living and think that everything is grand. And this is the backstory to Cyndy's story with her husband, Grant. And, they were in love, but there are challenges when you are an athlete, or you're when you're anybody. But there are challenges that, we're going to hear about Cyndy's challenges today. And she really is brave to come out and to share her story. I don't believe, and I'll ask her this question, I don't think it was personally for herself. I think it was more to help other people and to save children's lives. And we were just talking before, because she's Skyping in, but we were just talking before, and she said the only way that they can diagnose this is after you pass on. So, which is very sad, because you can't get the help you need when you're on this earth. And maybe that's something that will change, and that maybe that's part of Cyndy's journey, is to bring awareness to it so that they can. I was actually on the website yesterday. What's the name of the
Faces of CTE.
Faces of CTE, and I was amazed that a football player that I used to watch from the Oakland Raiders, Ken Staubach, he suffers from this concussion disease as well. So it's bigger than we think. And actually, Dr. Mike, who I haven't had a chance to talk to about this, Dr. Mike is very, very aware of all this, and he actually has a lot of stories. So if you could book him for the show, so that he can Skype in if he wants, but he can drive in. But it's really important to bring another doctor's view into this picture. But before we get into that story, which is very, very emotional, and we're so honored and very happy to have Cyndy as our special guest today. Like I said, June is Aphasia Awareness Month, so please spread the word. I had a softball coach of mine, Barbara Stewart, a little bit ago, email me and text me via Facebook and said, she saw a sign about aphasia and she wouldn't have known if it wasn't for our foundation. So we're doing a little bit of work.
Yes,
we're doing a little bit of work. The other thing is my Jamaica photos. You got to send photos of yours. So send me photos of, where did you go?
Well, we went on a cruise on Anthem of the Seas, which is Royal Caribbean. And we went to Bermuda, Puerto Rico, St. Martin, and Labradee, which is a private island off Haiti. And it was heaven.
Oh, wow. And it is. And you know what, Jim? Have you been on a vacation recently?
No.
But I said we're all
I'm
going to...
sitting very close to you guys, and I'm just like, can't believe you didn't invite me.
Well, that's what I'm
Neither one
saying.
of yous.
Next time we're going to go together and we're going to do the show from the
We
beach.
should bring the whole team.
But it's true. So
That'd be great.
I just want to get everybody into the feeling mode. So I want to show some photos. Could you show some photos?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's of the One Love. So Bob Mackie created this song, One Love.
Marley.
What? Oh, Bob Marley. Sorry, Bob Marley. So he is an icon in the country. And when I pulled in and I was driving in and I saw the poverty that was there, and my heart just fell to the ground because of the poverty, because it was a 2-hour drive to our resort. And when I got there, I was kind of like shaken, because here we were going to this beautiful resort.
I know.
And the poverty that was in the country. And I thought to myself, that's so ironic, but I know that if we don't spend the money, they don't have jobs. So, but once I was there and I got to meet the people, they're
friendly.
They're happy. They're happy
They're
doing
very
people.
happy.
They're just wonderful. So show another. That's the One Love sign that I bought for myself. It's a little plaque. I hang it on my wall so that I can always remember that we have to be one love. And show some sunny photos there. That's the view that I had outside of my window every morning to wake up. That's why I look so refreshed. And that was a double rainbow that we saw. And I knew that God was winking at me, telling me, because we were almost at the end, and I knew God was winking, telling me, everything is gonna be okay, and you're in the right place, and and it was perfect. It was a perfect ending. That's just a nighttime photo of the resort. It was Sands Resorts, Ocho Rio, and that was the sun coming up in the morning. Do you have any more, Jim?
I think that...
You don't have the... That's okay. That's okay. I really just wanted to let everybody know the feel. And you know what? Even if you have to take an hour, if you can't afford a vacation, because I've been there, I know. If you can't afford a vacation, just go out to the park.
Or the beach.
Or the beach, or the local beach, and just... find yourself there, and tap into yourself. It really is important to tap into yourself. That's okay, Jim. So I just really wanted to show some photos, and Judy's going to show some photos of hers. But it really is important to replenish yourself and refresh yourself, and to really center yourself. And I think that we both did that.
Yes, we did.
Yes. So thank you, Jim, for showing my photos, for tapping into my world.
It's really unbelievable looking.
Isn't
Hopefully
it?
It's going to look like that here soon.
It is. It's beautiful. And the truth is that everybody said to me, are you coming back? Because I was streaming on Facebook, everything I was doing. And in my world, my joy is where my family and friends are. That's where I'm happiest. I don't need to... I love to travel, and I love to see those places, and I love the warmth. Like if my whole
family... But there's nothing like being home.
Nothing like being home. If my whole family would come with me, I'd be good. So thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to Skype in with Cyndy
Feasel.
Cyndy Feasel. Sorry, that's one of my downfalls, is remembering names. That's why I have Judy next to me. She's wonderful. So can you bring her up, Shin? Hi, Cyndy.
Hi, ladies.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Like I was saying initially, this is really a moving story, and we're really, I can't even imagine how you got to the point to be able to process it and to put it down on paper. Because with me, it takes me a long time to think clearly. So. First of all, tell us a little bit about yours and Grant's relationship, and how you met. You were high school sweethearts, I believe.
College
Sweethearts.
College. Yes, we were college sweethearts. And we got married. I taught 1 year. I'd already graduated, and Grant had another year of football. So football was always part of our life. I never knew him with football being separate.
Right.
So he was drafted into the NFL in the 5th round. And it seemed exciting, although he was supposed to be a doctor, and he'd been accepted into all the medical schools and dental schools in the state of Texas. So he had a huge selection of schools to choose from. But we decided together, why not go ahead and play professional football? You can only do that one time in your life, right?
Right.
So, we were young, 21, 22, decided that that's the road that we were going to take.
Did you decide it together, or was just a no-brainer because that's where Grant lived? That's who
that's funny that you say that, because when I look back on it, it really was just a no-brainer, because everybody would have expected that that's what we would have done.
Yeah.
And so we didn't put a lot of thought into it. Of course, there was no talk of CTE.
Right.
There was no talk of football being a dangerous sport.
Right.
We just thought that was, where God was leading us.
Yeah, and and I watched football, like I said before, with my father. When I was young, we'd sit and we'd watch the Giants playing. I know it was another team in your area, but with the Giants were on, we watched football, we enjoyed it, but we didn't know.
We had no idea.
No. And it's so funny because this must have been happening for years, Cyndy.
Oh, yes. And when I look back on it now, it's that classic cliche, hindsight is 20/20. I had no idea, and neither did Grant. And bless his heart, he ended up dying, never knowing what really took his life, which is such a tragedy.
Right.
And that's why I'm on a mission until the day I die to talk about what killed the love of my life.
Right. Now, he played for the Seattle Seahawks, I believe it was.
He did. He was originally drafted by the Baltimore Colts, so we spent some time on the East Coast. And, that's where he was in the beginning. And then he went to the Minnesota Vikings, and then he ended his career, the last 8 years, which were really the most productive years of his career, was in Seattle.
And what position did he play?
Well, he always played center. He even played that in college.
Oh,
he played a little bit of guard, but always center. He always did the extra points and field goals, which was more damage to the brain. Because now we understand that, he was always down for all those extra points and field goals. And back in the day when he played, it was fine to jump on your head. It was fine for people to fall down actually on your head.
Oh my God.
So I look back on it now, and I see that there were little bitty things along the way, even after we got married in college, that were just a little disconnect, a tiny disconnect where you go, I mean, it wasn't, I didn't have anything to put together, but I just knew that, slowly, I say it was a slow fade, year after year, just little things not adding up. And now I understand it was a brain injury.
Wow. Well, now you're aware. And how did that got diagnosed when he had passed on?
Well, his brain went to the Boston University, which is where a lot of NFL players' families decide that the brains should go. And it's an ongoing study, so it was important that his brain be somewhere where they were talking about NFL players. And so at the time, that was the place to be, for sure, and still is a great place for players to donate their brains to. So it took a while, but when it came back that he had stage 3 CTE, I started researching it as much as I could. I'd never really understood what the symptoms were. I knew other players like Junior Seau, Dave Durison. There were other players who had died, and Mike Webster was one of Grant's idols in the NFL. He too played center. So I knew all of these guys had died by killing themselves. But I was like, well, Grant didn't kill himself, but he really did, because he died of cirrhosis of the liver, so he slowly killed himself.
He was medicating himself with the alcohol.
And so all of a sudden, all of that started all coming together for me. And I got on the Mayo Clinic's website, and I looked at all their symptoms of CTE that they had listed, and I realized that our life fit all of those symptoms. And it made so much sense to me then that Grant had literally had this almost our entire marriage, really. And I never knew, and neither did he. So it just became so important to me to try to write a book I feel that God led me to the right people. Mike Yorkie was a sports writer, and he'd written for Focus on the Family for years, a Christian publication company. And so he helped me put together this book that I think is, really for brain awareness, for parents that might want their children to play football from age 8 like Grant did. These are some things to think about, because it is definitely something that we know about now, so there's really not any excuse for parents at this point.
Yeah, that's a whole thing that I think about, like, now that this is in the forefront of the news, and the NFL and the sports associations, they really have nowhere to hide anymore.
No, and I don't really feel sorry for people that are continuing to play in the NFL. I feel sorry for children, because the parents sit down with their child and say, you're going to have a brain injury, and the chances of you getting ALS or Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, now all of these we realize are degenerative brain diseases that go along with hits to the head. So do you sit down with your child and explain to them that this could be their future?
Wow. So bring us back to a little bit of the challenges that you had dealt with. In your book, I heard a lot of the challenges, especially the drinking, the fact that your children sometimes had to come out and intervene, which was, that's a devastating amongst itself, that your children have to intervene. So talk to us a little bit about, the challenges.
Well, let me just say this, that over the years, I became a codependent, and that's a whole nother subject, because I didn't want people to know. Grant was having a lot of difficulties. He was hiding always. He didn't drink in public. He hid. So at night, when he would come home from work, he went to our bedroom or his study, closed the door, and he drank. And so I didn't really want our kids to know. Of course, I didn't want my family to know. So I spent most of our years of my marriage trying to cover up everything, which is wrong within itself. But it was scary to me. I didn't have any idea what to do. Grant was having trouble thinking. He had impulsive control that he couldn't, he would get upset and angry more with me than anybody else. He was never upset with the kids as much as he was with me. I was the closest one to him. Yeah, and hiding his issues, anyway. So it was hard. I spent a lot of years suppressing my feelings, and what you were talking about, self-care, it's so important. I say to all of the women out there who are dealing with husbands with brain injury from sports or anything else, it's best to be out in the open and just tell people what's going on, because I hid it, and I became a codependent, which is a sickness along with alcoholism. Right. So Grant had a brain injury and alcoholism going on at the same time, and I was completely in the dark. So I always say I wish I had a do-over. I know so much more now. I wish I could have been more patient with him, but I was not. I was upset with him. I felt like he was shirking some of his responsibilities. He quit paying bills. He quit.
You had no idea.
Really,
you had no idea the reality of what was happening. You had no idea.
I didn't. So I say it was a very misunderstood life.
Yeah. It's got to be hard, though. And the fact is that, my mother always told me that women need to support women, and they need to stand strong with women. That doesn't mean that we don't love the men in our lives, but it really is important to understand each other, because we understand, we are the same, from the same molds, most of us anyway.
Yes.
And so you created this foundation.
Well, I'm a co-founder. I didn't do it alone. I'm a co-founder along with Junior Sayal's sister Mary, Kimberly Archie, and Deb Pica, who both have lost sons to CTE. So all of us have lost a family member. Recently, the people in our group wrote a book, and it's called Brain Damaged, and so I encourage people to look that book up as well.
You wrote it together?
Yes, it's collective stories of all of our lives, and the CTE issues in all of our lives, and it's on Amazon as well, and there's a chapter in there about Grant too. So we're just trying to spread awareness. The Faces of CTE is about awareness and telling other people what CTE does in the whole family's life. I mean, it doesn't just affect the person that has it.
No.
It affects everybody.
Right.
And I say it's like the roots of an old oak tree. It just goes all down into the ground and comes back up and wraps around everybody and destroys everybody in the family. Because it's definitely a family disease. Maybe everybody doesn't end up being an alcoholic like Grant did, but people, a lot of them have issues with drugs and alcohol, and Grant really had both. And so it's a very damaging disease to the family.
Yes. It is, and the same thing happens with strokes or any illness,
Yes.
that does affect the whole family, your family and friends, especially when it's something to do with the brain that is unseen, and that's why we make sure we bring aphasia awareness to everybody, because when the brain is not functioning, people look at you. Like, I vividly remember when people were talking to me, especially when I was tired. I couldn't understand. They'd be talking to me, and I couldn't process what they were saying. It just wasn't getting in.
Right.
And people would look at me like, it was crazy. I actually had a young man come to my house. He was about 21, 22, and he was working on my cable, installing cable vision into my home. And he said to me that he had gone to the hospital because something was wrong, and he was slurring his words, and they thought he was on drugs or alcohol because he was slurring because of his age, but he actually was suffering a major stroke. And it's very sad that people don't try to find out more.
They don't realize what's going on.
They don't realize what's going on.
And Grant had trouble with his speech as well, by the way. And I just thought it was the alcohol, but now I understand that even maybe there were times when he wasn't under the influence of drugs and alcohol, that he had slurred speech because of the brain injury.
Right. And the brain is very interesting. I love to learn. I mean, because of this, I love to see stories. Maria Shriver was doing a series on PBS about the brain and how it operates and how it works, and it was very interesting for me. I'd love to get her as a guest.
Yes.
I'll work on it.
Well, she talks about Alzheimer's a lot, which, we don't, people didn't realize that brain injury, Alzheimer's, ALS, Parkinson's, dementia, all of that is degenerative brain diseases.
Yes.
And people don't understand that brain injury events are the leading cause of death and disability in the United States. It's more common than breast cancer, HIV, AIDS, spinal cord injuries, MS, all combined.
Yep.
And people just don't get it. They don't know.
Yep, that's why they say that strokes are the #1 cause of disability in the country, because it's a part of that world.
Yes.
It's a part of that world. So
yes.
What I loved about what I tapped into, aside from your story, was the fact that faith got you through it.
Yes, absolutely. If I hadn't had God in my life, I might have ended my own life. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you did, because I know with me, at this point, I know that when challenges come, I'm sure that with you as well, when challenges come into my life, I just go right into my God world.
Oh yeah. You have to. And thankfully we have that to tap into, because it saved me. And two, even after Grant's gone, I could feel a lot of guilt and just never be able to get up, just feel depressed, sad all the time. But I really am driven because I think that God has put me in this ministry to share my story with other people, to help save someone else. And if I can get through to families with young children somehow, some way, and impress upon their family how important it is not to let their child do a head-banging sport. If I can save one person, I know that's the same way you feel. If you can save one person by your message, then you've accomplished something. And that's, I think that God just continually puts that drive into me.
And Cyndy, reading your book, after the cheering stops, from the first page, And everybody that's read it says the same thing. From the very first page, it grabs your attention, your interest, and you can't put it down.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel extremely blessed. And again, I was led to the right person to help me write those things and express my feelings. And I'm a true person. I just say it like it is. I know, Judy, you follow me on social media, and I encourage any of your guests who are interested in this subject to find me on Facebook. Because I do like to have dialogue with the people that are in my life, and I like to share my story and my faith every day.
Yeah, it's important. It's important that the truth always prevails in our lives. But I will tell you that, as difficult as your story is, and actually we had another gentleman on our show a few weeks ago,
Talking about Stephen?
Tobin, who was in a tragic car accident. He was demolished, and he survived it, and he's telling his story. So, we have to sometimes go through difficult challenges to do our work on earth, and it's not fun. It's not fun, and I have found that living the faithful life is harder than going astray and just living the life that's the glorious life. We find glory in God, but other people find glory in material things, and it's true. You don't need material things in your life when you need God.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need God in your life.
Absolutely.
So, what would you say, if you were speak to the children? Because sometimes parents, I remember being a coach, and the parents want it for themselves. I hate to say that.
Yes.
And they want the child to do what they couldn't do, or to continue doing what they've done in their lives. And that's wonderful. I'm not saying that it's not.
I know.
And I'm not here to say that your children shouldn't play football. I'm just giving you information that this is Cyndy's story.
Any context.
Yeah, this is Cyndy's story, and and you got to do what's right for you. I want everybody to know that this show is not about telling people what to do. We just want to provide the proper information to them. But what would you say to the families and the children, to them?
Well, I agree with you. I'm not trying to say you can't do this or pick a fight with anybody. I'm just talking about what happened in my life and share my story. So Grant played football from 8 to age 32. Wow. And we know now that every hit counts. So if you start getting hits to the head at age 8, and you play, let's say, all the way through college, you have a greater chance of having a degenerative brain disease than if you don't. So that's pretty basic for parents. I think if I just looked at that information as a parent, I would say, okay, I'm going to look up scientific evidence of what hits to the head do in sports to my child. I mean, we Google everything, right? We Google what kind of tennis shoes are the best tennis shoes to wear for certain things. So why wouldn't we Google hits to the head in our kids playing a head hitting sport? That could be soccer. It could be a lot of things. I always say there are so many other things that can give our children that what sports give them, which is, the principles of life, I guess, that a lot of people feel like sports are important for children. And I understand that, but they can get that in baseball, tennis, basketball, track and field, golf. There's so many things that we can put our children in where they're not getting a repetitive hit to the head. I had 2 sons, Grant and I did. Yes, and we waited until they were in 5th grade before we let them play football, because we thought that was doing the right thing then. Now I wouldn't even do it then. But we thought we were doing the right thing by waiting until they were in 5th grade. But my boys played all the way through college. So does that worry me? Yes, every single day it worries me, because I know that they have a greater chance now of having a degenerative brain disease as well.
Do they have some of the signs that Grant had?
I don't really know. I don't really know. I feel like that they're okay right now, but I do think that, Grant's started progressing as he got into mid-30s. And so it does worry me. It worries me every single day. I want parents to understand that every hit counts. So if your child just plays during middle school and high school and you think you're safe, You're not, because every hit counts. Now we know that you can have brain scans done and you can see the lesions that are on your brain. Well, if you fell off your bicycle and got a concussion when you were 5 years old, you still see that lesion on your brain if you have a brain scan. So you're never safe. We know that accidents can happen, and I have parents that want to pick a fight with me nearly every day and say, you can't keep your kid in a bubble and you can't keep them from having a concussion. I get that. But you also don't put your child in the middle of the road and say, avoid the traffic that could kill you.
Right.
You are smart about it. You want to protect your child. There are no brain transplants. You can never get another one. You just have one. So it's so important to take care. Grant got a free education to college, and we were thrilled about that. And I know that his parents were thrilled about it as well. But trust me, had we rather have a free education playing football, or would we rather have Grant here?
Yeah.
I think we'd rather have Grant here for sure.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of regret in those things, but we didn't know. Now parents know. So I'd rather have my child just go through college on just a regular way than to put them through hits to the head continually for 4 more years. And Grant even did it for 5 years because he was a redshirted freshman. So it's just, I just say his was, it was terrible. He was not going to survive. Playing football from 8 to 32 was a death sentence for him.
Oh my gosh, I can't even, it's just crazy. And now you just mentioned about the CAT scans. Now, would you recommend, or is this something that people should look into, is having CAT scans as a baseline to find out what's going on in their brain, since you're saying that most of the damage is shown in the brain?
It really is.
Better than an MRI, or is an MRI better?
Well, I think a PET scan is Dr. Daniel Amen wrote the afterword to my book. I highly recommend him. He has clinics all over the United States, and he has one in New York. So I say to every parent, especially there, I would go get a baseline there before, just to have something to go on. I also believe that now most high schools have athletic trainers, and they do concussion baselines before they begin playing sports, and I think that's important as well. So we know more, but it's like people saying to me they'd like for me to talk about their helmets and how their helmets are new and supposed to prevent concussions. I don't think that there's anything that's ever going to protect the brain. The brain is like the consistency of an egg yolk or Jell-O. Do you really think there's any kind of helmet in the world that would ever be able to put a bowl of Jell-O in and it'd be okay? I just don't think so. So I know that there are, a lot of new things, and people are talking about new helmets, and people are talking about the NFL doing all this great protocol. But the bottom line is repetitive hits to the head cause brain damage.
I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot. Drew a blank. So that means it wasn't supposed to be said. But it's very... it concerns me for the children of our future,
Me too.
I have a grandson now. He's 2. And, I hope to God that my children are watching this so that they can make a strong decision. We don't want it to happen afterwards, especially when there's a lot of awareness out there,
I just say to every parent, look at the evidence. There's just a lot. You can Google this information and find it yourself. There's just a lot of information about children and brain disease.
Wow. So Grant passed on July 15, 2012. So how did were you together when he passed?
No, we'd been divorced, believe it or not, for 7 months.
Wow.
Horrible.
Wow.
Horrible. I just kept thinking, is anything going to wake him up? I felt like he'd ignored me for a long time. I understand now that all of that was part of the process that was going through with him and this disease. Dr. Ann McKee, who is the world-renowned pathologist at the Boston University, did his autopsy. She said that if he'd lived 1 more year, he would have been mindless.
Oh my
So
God.
Grant was, he was losing his mind our entire marriage. I understand that now. I wish I could say to him, I'm sorry. I wish I'd never left you. You know, I just
But
do.
you stayed a very long time, Cyndy.
I know.
read all the details and all that, and I thought you were very brave and you were very loving, and you stayed a very long time. I don't know if I would have lasted that long.
Because how much can a person take? I mean, honestly. You know, in a
I know.
relationship, it's got to
And I did get afraid, even for me, because he became violent, which was not like him. He was such a love. He was so sweet and so kind. And his personality just went all the way around and changed. He was more angry at me than anybody else. Trust me, he was never angry at anybody else. He was more mad at me. He was mad at me always. I think that's because I was the closest person to him. You know, so, and also I know I irritated him. I had a lot of questions. How come you're not paying the bills? How come this? How come that? You know, I had a lot of questions for him that were too hard for him to answer.
Yeah, yeah.
And I understand that now.
Jim, I don't think you should. Can we put the photo of Grant up? Because it really is. Is that? Oh, can you enlarge it? I just want everybody to be able to see it. Because, you know, you can see why he really did look like a very compassionate, loving, caring, dedicated individual guy.
All of those things. He was awesome. I would have never married somebody that wasn't.
Yeah.
He was just, everybody thought that he was the greatest person ever. In our college, his last year, he won every award there was to win for football. He was not only a great football player, he was an incredible person.
Yeah, and he looks like a very...
Cyndy, when he was in the hospital and you were with him, I thought that was very moving when he said to you that if I had known about all these injuries and what it was going to do to me, I would never have done this. I would never have played football. I lost everything I ever loved.
Yes, and so I know that in his mind, as sick as he was even putting two and two together then at the end. I think that's why he said to me, I forgive you. We both got to make amends to each other before he died, which is so helpful to me. Every day, yes, I just say, thank you, God, that I got that. Because that gives me the strength to go on, because I know that he would be proud of me for doing this. He knew that I was spunky, and I was never going to stay quiet. I was going to keep on talking about what took him away from me now that I get it. And I just know that at the end, we had peace. I wish he could have made peace with our children. The time just ran too short. I think that, there was a lot of unanswered questions for our kids. This disease did a lot of damage to our family, and I don't talk about this a lot, but it really did a lot of damage with me and the children. I just think that they felt like they were losing Grant early on, and so our kids have a lot of issues just because Grant was present limitedly in their life because of the drinking, and so it did a lot of damage. I'm still working every day and praying for God to heal my family.
If you don't mind me asking, you don't need to answer this question. Are your children tapped into the work you're doing?
No. My children were really opposed to me writing the book. I think they thought that I exposed their dad. I didn't do it to expose Grant. You know this. You've read the book. You know that this was not about exposing Grant. This was about trying to help someone else. When I wrote this, I remember saying this to Mike Yorkie, who wrote the book with me. I said, all I want to know, is there anybody out there? Is there anybody else out there that's experienced what I have? I need to know. If they're there, I want to connect with them. I want somebody to tell me that their life was misunderstood like mine, and that they lived their life in retrospect. And so I need somebody to say, yes, we've been down this same road, which, by the way, I have connected with thousands of other people who have lived this same life. So for me, I've gotten validation, which was so important. I wish my kids would understand that most of these people that I talk to, it's destroyed their families as well. The children are affected by it. There's not one family that says, oh, yeah, we're good and the kids are okay. Everybody's family's damaged. I wish my kids would join in with me long enough to understand and to make them feel better that they're not the only ones that have gone through this.
And I think you're accomplishing that. I certainly
Thank
feel
you.
that you are.
Thank you. I still am asking God every day to help heal my children's heart because we're all damaged. And I just want them to feel that God is healing them the way I feel that He is healing me, but it's a daily process. I could have put my head under the pillow and just never gotten up again, but you just have to keep going. I mean, it's like you just have to keep telling your story.
Yep. We understand it. But you know what, Cyndy, you know this. I don't have to tell you this, but I'm just going to confirm it that, God is doing His work. He is doing His work.
Yes.
Even though we don't see the work that He's doing, live by faith, not by sight.
That's right.
And we know that he's doing His work, and your children just love it. My hashtag in the world is love them through it. And and this is what you said about grants, because you didn't know. So love your children through this, what they're going through. They're going through their own challenges in their lives,
Yes.
And we have to pray for them.
And I really feel, Cyndy, you were very supportive and loving.
Thank you.
Reading your story,
Thank you.
You were very supportive of Grant.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you saying those things, and I thank you for validating that I do have to love my children through it, because I think a lot of people just get mad and angry and they just quit trying to communicate, and I just keep on giving it to God and saying, you love them more than me, so I know that you can fix this.
Yeah, that's true. So let's turn the page a little bit and say some happy stuff. Because I know I follow you on Facebook, and I see your teachings. And so tell us what you're doing right now and how you got back into it.
Yes. Well, I started teaching even before Grant died, and I was thankful that I had a career going. Even after our relationship was destroyed, I had kids at school. So I've always taught I've taught for 20, I'm going on 22 years. Wow. So I was a stay-at-home mom for years and loved every bit of that. And when my youngest went to kindergarten, I went back to school too. Wow. And so I've been an art teacher. That's what I wanted to be. And I went to school for that. And so I was just thankful and blessed that I was able to find a career in that. So I'm challenged every day because I teach in a low-income school. I feel like it's my ministry because the children don't have a lot of opportunities that other children do. So I feel very blessed to be there. And I just know that, that's part of my whole life plan, is that I am able to give back every day, and these kids bless me in art. And so I'm a painter. I love to paint. I am just constantly trying to keep myself busy, so I'm thankful that I have the work at school, and then I do a lot of painting, and that's fun for me too.
It's incredible. You are a wonderful story, to that, you're just speaking your truth, and it really, it's making changes. It's making a difference,
Thank you.
And do you have any other speaking engagements, or is your foundation that your partner's in doing any work in the near future?
Well, I am coming to New York, I think, at some point. I know. I made New Jersey area. I'm supposed to be coming sometime in September, so I'll let you know. Maybe we can connect some way then. But I just always say where the Lord leads, So I'm always excited anytime that someone wants me to come speak about brain awareness. And this is actually in New Jersey. It's a suicide prevention conference, and so I'm just honored anytime that I can go anywhere. The Faces of CTE is constantly talking about brain awareness, which I'm a part of, and that's fantastic. And so, I'm just open. I'm open, and I am thankful that I can just do different things. I've gone to quite a few brain alliances across the United States and talked about brain awareness. So right now I'm just looking at summer from school, and I'm just thankful for a little time off to just take care of myself,
Cyndy,
just like what you said, taking care of me.
Cyndy, if you want to, you could come to the studio, and we could invite Dr. Beckley.
Dr. Beckley. Oh, Cyndy, I'm telling you, that would be a very powerful show. Because Dr. Beckley is a remarkable.
He's a neurosurgeon.
Okay, great.
Incredible. And then we could also invite Dr. Mike, who is.
And he's in the Brain Aneurysm Center of Good Sam Hospital on Long Island. And,
fabulous.
I think you two would have a lot to.
Yes. He's incredible, Dr. Beckley.
That would be wonderful. As soon as I get the dates down, I'll get in touch with you so that we could coordinate something, okay?
Yes. We would love to have all of you in the studio because, we want to use this platform to really help save lives and really not only save lives, but the quality of life for people that are still living. We don't want to wait for them to pass to be able to diagnose that they've had an issue. The same thing with people with strokes. If I'm not moving around too much, you don't know that I've suffered a major stroke. Although I'm cured now, but there's some principles and tools that I have to use when I get tired, and I really do need to care for myself a little bit, not a little bit more, but I really need to care for myself so that I know myself. You got to know yourself.
Yes.
Renee seems to work 24 hours a day. I mean, I don't know when she sleeps.
But that comes from a passionate place, right, Cyndy? God
gives
us the energy to do whatever we need to do. Whatever we need to do. And
that's right. That's when you know it's a ministry.
Yes, it is a ministry. It is a ministry. A long time ago, I labeled it as a ministry. It's just you got to do what He calls us to do.
Absolutely. And
without God in our lives, that's why people that don't believe, I always hope that they'll find something to believe in, whether it's, you want to call Him God, you want to call it inner strength, you want to call it, you want to hook up to the Red Cross. You got to believe in something in yourself, because without that, those days that come, that the physical people around you, and there's times where there's nobody there for you, so you have to look inward, and that's why I love that with your children. Did you ever see the movie War Room?
Yes, I did.
Great movie. I always talk about it. But it teaches you how to go inward and to pray for people.
Yes, absolutely. And I always say you have to find a landline. God is so important, and we need to have a constant dialogue with Him. But we have to find somebody here on earth that we can hook up to, that we can get help from and draw strength from. Yeah,
and you know what? You have to be open for that. Because sometimes people just come into your lives. And I mean, at this point, when people present themselves, and it's usually somebody, and I'm going to say this, and you're going to think it's crazy, but it's usually somebody out of whack. Like somebody that's wearing like a pink floral shirt, or like God gives you that sign that this is the person you need to pay attention to. Or, I'll be so busy, and all of a sudden somebody be like, and I'm like, I'm busy. Like you gotta know that's
stop. Look, listen.
You're not listening to me, and I hear God say, "Renee, I'm trying to pay your attention again."
I know. I hear you.
It's good. It's good. So, Cyndy, we're gonna close in a few minutes, but we want to give you this last opportunity. Not the last opportunity, this opportunity, because we're gonna stay connected, and we're gonna help you in any way we can. And we pray to have you on the show in September. But what were your final? How would you like to close this show?
Well, I just first of all want to say thank you to both of you, because I feel like we're long friends, and that makes me happy, and that I know that we're going to reconnect and have a relationship, and that thrills me. And I just appreciate you doing whatever you can to reach out to other people, to make them understand that this is a very important issue. I always say, for everyone that's experiencing any kind of problem, don't do what I did and stay internal. That was not really my personality, but I got lost in just trying to save myself, quote unquote. You are not responsible for that. You need to turn to someone, find a counselor, find therapy in some way. Reach out to people and get some help. So don't just think that you're alone in this world with the problems that so many of us have experienced, but reach out to someone and get some help. Get on your road to trying to connect with other people like you and me that have experienced these things, and it's so much more helpful to be together than to be alone.
Yes. Thank you so much, Cyndy. Judy, do you want to share anything?
I just want to remind the audience to read after the cheering stops. I think they can learn a lot from it. It's very moving, and it's a great book, and everybody should read it.
Thank you so much. It's available on Amazon, and you can get it at Barnes & Noble, but I just always say Amazon delivers to the door. So that's the best place.
Jim, could you make the photo of the book bigger? Would that be possible right now? Just so that they could see if I'm asking us, because I always throw things at Jim last minute, you know. There we go. There we go. So that's the book. What's the name?
Thank you, ladies, so much.
After the cheering stops. I think I'm going to go out singing a little bit. Let There Be Peace on Earth. So if you want to stay on and just pray a little bit with us, this is how I pray, through music. We'd love it. So here we go. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as our Father, brothers all are we. Let me walk with my brothers in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my solemn vow, to take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. God bless everybody. Let's blow our kisses.
Thank you.
Cyndy, we're going to blow our kisses.
Bye,
everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you, Cyndy.
Thank you,
Thank you, ladies.
na 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 wishing they're all dead. The lines held up inside my head. I left here like a broken man with no idea of where I stand. Oh, my mind clears. Lord, I shed all my tears. Oh, now baby, I was just waiting here while you moved on. This tattered soul is something I've always wanted to know. This whole sense of security, this newfound freedom you kept from me. The sound of all your loaded guns, this outbreak war has just begun. The sound of all your loaded guns, this broken man has already won. Oh, my mind clears. Lord, I shed all my tears.